great network. And frankly, I didn't know that. I didn't plan for that. But when I reflect and think about why I am given that moniker, is that I have been generally curious to know a lot of different things, get to know a lot of different people and all of that. And I think just that curiosity has led me to, find some opportunities to meet people.
Right.
The other related thing has been that, helping people connect with other people. Because when you are connected to lots of people, Ravi, you asked me, hey, do you know so and so in some place? I'll say, yeah, sure, why not, and all of that. So I think that kind of has fueled my own networking, activity where curiosity coupled with connecting others to people has led to this. And I just enjoy learning from people, connecting others. They'll do something else and all of that. And that's been my reason for networking. Find me. But again, everyone will have to find a reason, and I suspect the reason cannot be very tactical.
Yeah.
Because usually people go to networking saying, I'll go find a job or whatever. I think those things should happen organically, and that can't be the reason to do it. So I think you have to find another reason.
Right.
Finding a job or something tactical can happen organically, but that can't be the reason. So, I think again I will start with the why. So I don't think everyone has to run marathon or do whatever I am doing. I think they have to find something that makes sense to them. So I have this, we talk about well-being and health and fitness and so on and so forth these days.
Yeah.
So I had created a formula for that. See, I try to create formulas because then I remember them and then I'm also able to transmit it to others. So my formula for health and fitness was S and three E's. So it's S and three E's C. So the four things that are there in my mind are sleep, eating, exercising, and the last one is expression, which is, what kind of thoughts are you carrying? Are you stressed or not, and so on and so forth. So I think I believe that those four things apply to everyone to be a healthy person, right?
Yeah.
Sleep, figure out what makes sense. For me, it is 8 hours. For you, it might be six, it might be nine, whatever it is. Do your experiment, find it. Eating, for me, I want to maintain a certain weight because I run marathon. I don't want to, carry extra weight when I run. So I make sure that I eat less. I eat at home. I don't eat out too much. I don't overeat. If I overeat, I try to kind of make up next time. So I'm a more of a morning person. So I take my food to office from home for any lunch, dinner, meeting. Typically, I tend to eat first at home and go and all of that to the extent possible and all of that, right? So I have figured out my own way. When I go to a buffet, I sit down. I don't go there because it will, distract you. I tell someone that, hey, just give me this or that, and that's it. That's all I need and all of that, right? So not get distracted by the abundance that is out there. So I have figured out my own eating regimen to ensure I have the right weight and I don't become overweight because it helps me with my running. Exercising, somehow I picked up running. I enjoyed meeting people. Like I said, I'm curious. I like to talk to people. So it's actually a conversation and not a run. So I meet lots of people. I talk to them these days. I sometimes, if I'm alone, I can listen to a podcast. But it's a curiosity-seeking activity which happens along with the run. So it's not purely a physical activity, and I enjoyed that. But
Right.
I think that everyone has to figure out some exercise, some activity, because we all know that healthy mind and a healthy body, all that. Whether it is yoga, whether it is golf, whether it is something, whether it is walking, something that works for you. For me, it's running. It could be something else. Expression is the hard part. That's people say, how do I keep my mind sane? For that, for so far, I have only found that if your objective function in life is not just about yourself, that it is all about me. It's also not about harming other people.
Yeah.
Then by and large, you should be okay. Because what the pattern I've observed is that you are like vindictive or, going after someone or whatever, then you are tense and you are, unhappy. And when you're thinking only about yourself beyond a point, I think you might be more tense and unhappy. But again, these are just pattern that I've observed. There's no right answer to keep, mentally fit and all of that. But I think everyone has to figure out
Right.
what is that give them peace. I think that for me, my overall objective always is that how can I maximize the greater good? In fact, maybe the best way for me to describe my mental thought process would be the election nara which says "Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Prayas," so that all of us come together and make progress together, type of a thing. That's what motivates me. So everyone has to find their motivating equation, and if they can all find their S plus three is that's what it is all about, a balanced life. And sometimes when I was young, I didn't play. I was just studying because my dad said you have to get into IT, all that. So I think for periods of time we may be unbalanced, but over time we have to seek that balance. Maybe a young mother is busy with the kid and can't do all of those things. That's fine. So I think we have periods of time when we are not balanced in that period. But over time, I think we have to find the balance. Is what I've learned. And marathon in general has taught me that life is a long race. You are running only for yourself and with yourself. Everyone else is there for a while, but end of the day, it's your race. So that's my sort of. So I think there are two parts to your question, West versus East, and second is the legacy. So I'll share with you what I currently think about that topic. See, every culture, every person is shaped by the environment that they are in. So my view is that the Eastern civilization is very, very old. I would say has been sustained for, I don't know, thousands of years. And I think the key to that sustainability perhaps is, and I talk about not just India, but maybe the larger Eastern older civilization, is that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam type ideology,
Yeah.
that us as human beings and nature and everyone else is part of the entire ecosystem. No one is bigger or better than the other. We have to coexist. And
Yeah.
that's what true sustainability is all about. So my suspicion is that has led to this whole ideology that it's not about me,
Mm.
it's about us. So I think it is very deeply rooted in the ethos that we are in it together, and I am a contributor like everyone else, and I don't have the ego to be able to say that it's because of me that happened, right? So that probably leads to all this stuff that you speak about.
Yeah.
Now, the Western, if you talk about the US 250 years ago, 100 years ago, when a lot of people went, that ideology is very different because there were these immigrants who went there, they conquered all of that. Somewhere the ideology is a bit more, capitalist, or you can say materialistic, where the human being is somewhere superior to the rest of the ecosystem, right? So
Mm.
the ideology there is that I'm here to utilize all the resources given to me to
Yeah.
further my ends, which then has probably led to a certain brand of capitalism where we have to now talk about ESG.
Mm.
Hopefully, we never have to talk about ESG, because if you have the ideology of a balanced ecosystem, then ESG doesn't play a role because you are ESG by design and not, as an afterthought, so to say. So I think we have to look at the context of these things to understand these things. I don't have a specific point of view. And therefore, given that I'm Eastern, I don't believe myself in legacies, because legacy is an ego that,
Mm.
thinking that I leave something and people remember me. One of the ways to I'll tell you a real story. So 10, 15 years ago, when I used to be in Dell, I was inspired by this guy, Clayton Christensen. He had a course called How Will You Measure Your Life in Harvard. It's very popular. So I would, with that inspiration, I would do some talks in my office and say, let's do a coffin test. Let's say you're in a coffin. Who would you expect to come and what would they say about you? That's one way to determine your legacy. And I would say, let me go first. I would say that, I'm very nice guy, helpful guy. Hopefully lots of people will come and they say, this guy was very nice and I approached him, he helped me, all that, right? So that was my answer for many years. Then after some time, my answer changed. I told people that frankly, I don't think anyone will come, because now WhatsApp has happened and people will say RIP,
Mm.
and someone will also say that, yeah, 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 one day he helped me very much. But after 2 hours, they will be sharing jokes with each other. So therefore, you are gone from the memory. And that is just a truth. Now, the question is not what they do. The question is knowing that,
Mm.
will I change in my behavior?
Yeah.
And my answer to myself was nothing.
Mm.
Wasn't doing anything to expect a lot of people to come to my funeral and talk good about me. I
Mm.
was doing it because I truly believe that is my purpose in life, that is my why. And it doesn't matter what others think or say. So, therefore, to me, the concept of legacy does not exist in my mind.
Real.
I need to continue to do the right thing. How later people will judge me will also depend on the context. I mean, you today look at lots of people who are dead,
Mm.
uh, or no longer there. The legacy keeps changing depending on who wants to interpret it. I used to work for GE. Jack Welch had a great legacy, and then later said, "Oh, look at all the bad thing that he did." Right.
Yeah.
So I think that today Gandhi can be reinterpreted. Anyone can be reinterpreted. Right. You can
Right.
see it happening in front of you, and history is being reinterpreted. And I don't think that interpretation is right or wrong. It's
Mm.
just people of the day are seeking a certain type of inspiration from the past, and it's their choice what inspiration they seek.
Yeah.
They can seek inspiration in whichever way they feel like. So I don't judge any of these things. I think it's just a matter of how the thing is. And we need to be sure what we are doing and why we are doing, not necessarily perturbed by how we are being interpreted now or maybe reinterpreted later
Sure.
in the right. So I think very, very hard to give advice on some of these topics because parenting is so hard that despite so many examples of people becoming parents, I don't think that field is very well understood. Unlike every other field, I think parenthood is the hardest one because everyone does it their way. So clearly, I think the goal that most parents have is goodness for their children, right? And the goodness is defined by them based on whatever they have seen or heard. So
mm,
I think it's like anything that we are trying to do, that whatever you are doing, it should not harm anyone, just as a natural order of things, whatever you are trying to achieve, right? In
yeah,
this case, if you are doing something with a child, it should not harm them. Now
mm,
that harm is a very difficult thing. You might sort of push, just like that movie of Amir Khan where he was pushing his girls to do sports, and some people say, "Oh, he was pushing too hard. My
mm,
own dad pushed me very hard," and things like that, right? But I think you have to also know what is the limit of that pushing, right? We have seen even in the army, people are pushed into doing something, and then accidents happen, all that. So I think figuring out the limitation of what the other person can take is always hard, right? And
yeah,
that's where some of these things are happening. So I think the only thing I can say is that whatever they are doing, I think I'm sure they're having a goodness at heart and all of that, but they should think out the limitation of how much they should push.
mm,
And I would think more importantly, think about, are you pushing your own ideas to these children that maybe you didn't achieve something and you want them to achieve and live your life through them and all of that. So hopefully you are doing it based on what their strengths and aspirations are, and
mm,
not trying to impose yours, which is again very hard to figure out, because many a time you'll find that, oh, I couldn't get into Harvard, so I want to make sure my son gets to Harvard or daughter gets to Berkeley or whatever it is.
yeah,
Now they are capable and they can do it, why not? So I do think that it's a very difficult act to follow, because as a parent you are very attached to your children, and you can get blindsided to their own needs. I
mm,
would just think that just like any other thing that we do, try to do some experiments, try to understand, are they good at it, can they thrive in it, all of that, and do that controlled experimentation.
mm,
Not be any that now I've decided you have to go to Harvard, and respective I'll make sure you go there, or IIT or whatever, and then things happen. So I think being open-minded to
mm,
changing your mind when you see that the child is maybe not ready for it or wants to pursue certain things,
mm.
that's the only thing I can tell you. I don't think
Sure.
people know this already. It's hard to practice, is all I will say.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know, Ravi, whether anyone will say that they don't want to be relevant either in corporate world or in your family or whatever. And sometimes, I'm seeing that as you age in your family, you can suddenly become irrelevant because people are neglecting you. And I see some, old people in our families that they are feeling that no one is coming to meet them and all of that. And that happens a lot in the West. So I think staying relevant is I think a human need. I think it's a deeper human need, because the reason that we get motivated is that we think we are important, we are making a contribution,
Mm,
and someone else cares, right? So whatever we are doing, someone else cares, because we do seek some kind of a validation. So I don't think staying relevant as a question is debatable. I think that's something that everyone wants to make sure they do that. I think, how do you ensure that you are continuing to stay relevant? Because the world is changing so fast
yeah,
that sometimes whatever you learned may not be the only thing that is important to stay relevant later on. So I think, therefore, I think it's again start with the why. Staying relevant is obviously needed, but to be relevant, you have to be connected to the needs of the marketplace.
right,
Important. What are people paying for? What are people buying? What are the trends? And therefore, how can I create a unique contribution to that, right?
right.
So I think people who are playing test cricket, if they had seen that eventually the world will go to 2020,
Mm,
to be relevant in their own space, they had to learn new things, a new
yeah,
way of scoring runs.
yeah,
And simply in the office, if you are in a retail company which had stores and now they are going online,
mm,
just to stay relevant to your consumer base, because they want to now click and buy and all of that, you got to learn new skills. So I do think that you have to look at the context in which you are playing. Like I said, whether in the family, whether in your sports field, whether in your office. I think the world is changing, and it's up to you to keep looking at where do you think it is going, and how is it that you can uniquely contribute to it. Someone can uniquely contribute to it through use of great technology because you are a techie.
yeah,
Someone can contribute through better use of imagining the consumer trend because you have a design thinking mindset. You can better create insights and figure out what the customer want. You can be a product manager, all of that. So I think you have to continuously see that where is the, I mean, is that whole ikigai thing, that what is going to happen?
mm,
What do I, superpower that I possess, which I can bring to bear, which will create value for which I'll be known for. So I think that's a continuous learning and experimentation for us to figure out what is that next other thing that I need to add to my capability set, so
yeah,
that I create value uniquely and continue to stay relevant.
sure. Thank